they were a correct guide for action. Of course they were not, because they originated in fear. And they also originated in a misinterpretation of reality, which is so easy to do for the mind, to misinterpret another person, to misinterpret a situation. You misinterpret because you see it through the conditioning of your mind. You see it through your beliefs, your prior experiences in childhood. You see it through other things that have conditioned your mind, maybe even scary movies about weird people who don't say much. And then just when you're having a shower, they creep in. So it is not, therefore it's not that easy often to say, where does this feeling that I have arise? Where does this feeling originate? Now, does it come from a deeper, the intuitive place? Intuition comes out of being present. Intuition does not come out of the conditioning of your mind. So, if you have an intuition, also, it is usually not tainted by negativity, such as anger or fear. So, there's something certain about it. There is a quiet strength behind your feeling. A quiet strength. There's not a nervous energy behind your feeling. There's more. You just know this is right. You may not be able to explain to yourself or others why. It has a different quality, and there's a peaceful quality to it. Now, let's just imagine, to come back to the story that happened with that young woman. Of course, it could have been that theoretically I could have been a psycho and actually could not be trusted not to kill her. Theoretically, that's possible. So, I don't know what the answer to this is, but I know from my own life, whenever there is a deep realization of what the right course of action is, it is always, there's a peace with it, and even if there's a cycle there, you know with absolute certainty that this is not right for you. There's an energetic imbalance which comes from a deeper place. But I cannot really explain in words. You'd have to, through life experience, you have to find out for yourself what a deeper feeling that comes out of presence and is a true intuition, how it is different from something that arises from the conditioning of your mind. Now, a lot of the time, people misinterpret reality because they look at reality through the veil of their conditioning, and that contributes to a huge amount of conflict in life, in relationships, and so on. And not only they misinterpret, they add this, what I call unnecessary baggage to situations through their reactivity, which is an ego device in order to strengthen the ego's always deficient sense of identity. So, coming back again to that story, what had happened, if I had reacted in the normal way strengthen my sense of self, the separate sense of self. And again, if the reaction had been when she finally decided, just after the second night, decided to stay, I could have again said, I've just spent, when it wasn't that much, an ad in the local paper is relatively cheap. But the ego would have dwelt on that and said, no, I've spent that, and all these people that already said they couldn't come, now they have already found accommodation. I would have again made somebody wrong. And the ego loves that, to make somebody wrong. Because when you make somebody wrong, then you would be, the ego would even explain, you're totally justified, because that's not fair. A person shouldn't just change like that. Just. But instead of saying how people should behave, you just tell this is what it is. You can either accept it or you cannot. I could have said also, in practical terms, that when after the second night she said, I've decided to stay, I could have said, oh, it's too late, I've already found somebody else, or had said, no, maybe it's better if you do go, because tomorrow night you might again, after tomorrow you might again not want to stay. All these things are possible, but the situation remained simple because of non-reactivity. And this applies to so many cases. Whenever there's some kind of things do not go smoothly because the person does not do what they're supposed to do, and then immediately the ego constructs a narrative, and you know it when you start telling other people about it. It strengthens it. So I could have picked up the phone and said, you know, I have this girl, I rejected 5 other people for her, know what she's done to me. She's going to listen and tell the story. It's so satisfying to the ego. And then the person on the other end says, oh my God, you're so and then of course I could have gone into thinking, oh, maybe she's totally neurotic, maybe she's a psycho. And all spinning tales in the head, all kinds of things. There's a whole fictitious narratives that are taken for reality. And that's how simple things can actually be if you don't add unnecessary reactivity to it. But in order to do that, it requires you to be present, not to be there as a person, because a person feels easily offended. So if you're there as a person, you get offended a lot. If you go on the internet, you'll find that the world is full of people who are deeply offended. And they can explain why, and it sounds totally reasonable. The ego loves being offended. I'm not denying that there may be some remarks that are truly offensive, but that's a relatively small thing, and if it is something truly offensive, again, what could he have said? What that was truly offensive? He could have said, I can't stay with you because you're too ugly, for example. Now, to the ego, that would be offensive. Or she might have said, well, she happened to be white, but if you'd not been white, you could have said, I finally have this feeling I cannot stay with a white male. Okay. Vigilance is required in your interactions with people. Always the question, am I adding something to the interaction that is unnecessary, that is just there to strengthen my fictitious sense of self, to justify to make somebody wrong. Big thing for the ego. Because if I can make something wrong, there's always an element of victimhood. When I make somebody wrong in relation to myself, there's always an element of, may not be the main focal point, but there's an element of me being the victim if I make you wrong. And the ego loves that, because it strengthens itself through that. And if I make somebody wrong, you know what he said and what he did then? Let me tell you about this. Oh, how can somebody do something like that? And this means unconsciously I'm always superior to the other when this happens. When you're telling the story about what somebody did and said to you, you do it because the ego, when you're making somebody wrong, because then you are right. Now you probably all know people in your life when they tell you things, it's always others who are wrong. It's never them. It's very strange. Why is it that I'm always right and others are always wrong? They never ask that question. But that is a mystery of human existence. One of the great mysteries of life is why I am always right and others are always wrong. I think philosophers haven't explored yet in detail enough, and nobody has resolved this mystery. And everybody should ask themselves, how is that? I must be really superior to everybody. Weird. So if you think back the last year or 2 or 3 in your life, well, I'm actually talking to a group of people here who are much more conscious than the average human, but nevertheless, even here, some of you may find, if you look back the last few years, that whenever there was some kind of argument or conflict, perhaps it was it always the others who were wrong? It's very easy to deny somebody's perspective if it conflicts with your own and make them totally wrong. You can also make a group of people totally wrong. An entire group, an entire nation, an entire religion can make everybody wrong. It's great, feel stronger, morally superior. No, does that mean there are not people who are deeply wrong because there may be people out to deceive you? You might go and buy a second-hand car, and the person is so friendly and kind, and he sells you something that just breaks down the next day, and it clearly lied to you. What do you do then? And even then, it's important not to amplify what has happened by going into your mind and creating a whole string of narratives in your mind of what an awful person that is, and coming to all kinds of conclusions about that, and tell the story to yourself and to others and amplify it in that way, and then you go back to him and then you tell him really what you think of him, rather than keep it simple. What action can I take to remedy this? Even if you go to court, you can do it in a detached way. I'm not necessarily saying never do anything, just put up with anything and anybody. That's not what it means. Even if you go to court in order to rectify a situation that is obviously wrong, you can do it in a way that is detached and just keeps it to just the essentials of the situation, practical, without the whole superstructure of you are the evil one, you are wrong. I won't repeat it here, but I think you may all remember the story I told, I believe it's in A New Earth, about the Zen master who was accused of having fathered a child, and what his responses were at every stage of the process. Is that so? Now that's an interesting, you may remember the parents accused him that he was the father of their daughter's child, and then the parents brought the baby to him, and at each stage when the parents told him something, you are the father, is that so? You bring now you look after the baby, we don't want it, you're the father. And he had lost his reputation, etc. People were commenting about him on the internet. And he did not participate in the story making, and he didn't defend himself, and he just said, okay. So it means a total refusal to go into any kind of story. Cut. Is that so? Yeah. Oh. And finally it all became resolved itself. The daughter confessed that he was not the father, and so on, and the parents wanted the baby back. Please give us the baby back, we now know that, you're not the father. Please forgive us, we did a terrible thing by accusing you. Terrible thing. Is that so? Okay. That's whether this story actually ever happened, I don't know. Whether it's just a teaching story or actually happened, but it doesn't matter. It shows you an extreme form of not being engaged in a story, not engaging in the story making that is ego strengthening. So you can practice that in many, many situations in your life. Refrain from calling up people or telling up people what other people, and tell them about what other people did wrong, or how they failed, how they were deficient, how somebody lied to you, was dishonest, or expressed an objectionable opinion. And then conflict becomes almost eliminated from your life, or 90% of it.
Why are so many... So, we all know that some foods make us gain weight, and some foods are definitely healthier than...
Thank you. So, for me, I'm here about relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm in the midst of enormous transition in my own life.
Everybody is.
Everyone is. I've been with the same partner 37 years. And I went to the land cruise in 2016 with my husband. And we met a woman there. And he now believes he's going to be with her. So it's been, this is the first event that I've attended since then, because I was, needless to say, absolutely unprepared and shocked, because he's been the only man I've ever loved. So I find myself grief-stricken, and knowing that nothing happens in this universe by accident, that this is all part of the... required, I believe, to walk another road. But I have been unable to let go.
It's understandable. And it's also understandable why you are doing right now what almost everybody does when life is showing them something they don't want. You are observing it and describing it and speculating about it and sort of trying to figure it out and getting nowhere. That's why we sort of wanted to interrupt you, because there's such a compulsion or almost a craving, a tendency in your physicalness, in your humanness, to want to explain where you are. But the thing is, where you are, and we wanted that focus wheel demonstration that we were just doing, we wanted it to help you to see, we wanted to point out to you that where you are is often here and here, which is what you were, in essence, saying to us with hollow words. The words that you were saying to us are not meaningful because what you're feeling is different from the words. And that's what we mean by saying you got to own it vibrationally. So when you're saying, I know that there's a divine plan, at the same time, you're saying, I know that there's a divine plan, but this divine plan sucks big time. Even though you're acknowledging with your words, what you're feeling with your vibration is indignation and wrongdoing and
Grief. I mean, I have been utterly, it felt like I was being undone.
so this is where we began today. Do you want to be undone?
I want to be
We are asking
joyous
you a very
again.
specific question. Do you want to be undone?
I must want to be undone because that's what's happening.
This is what we want you to hear. You don't want to be undone, but you're doing the things that undo you. But our question to you was, do you want to be undone? Do you want to be devastated? Do you want to be grief-stricken? Do you want to be defeated? Do you want that? No. It's an extreme situation. I don't want this. I do want something else. We're going to chew just a little bit here. If somebody snatches your candy and runs away, you might be mad, but you'd get over it. When they snatch your husband and run away, it feels different. It doesn't feel like something that you want to get over.
I do want to get over it, Esther. I really do.
So, we look so much alike. So do you think it's too soon? We're asking you, do you think it's too soon for a focus wheel on this? Is she too raw? Is she too grief-stricken? So they think you can do it. Now, there are some things to talk about here. Do you think she should have to get over something so rotten? Isn't there plenty of blame to go around? Couldn't we spend about the next 5 or 10 years? Couldn't we write a few hundred books on the injustices of all of this? Couldn't we write a book about the divine interplay? Are there just tons of books to write? Or could this just be about, I feel not good and I want to feel good? That's really where you're at.
I want to have joy back in my life. I want to live again because it's felt like I haven't been living.
But you see, almost every time we give you an opportunity to speak, you go there rather than there. And that's the power of a focus wheel. That's just because you're accustomed to following the strongest momentum. And the strongest momentum on this planet about something like this, you'll hardly ever go anywhere where you'll hear like a talk show host, or if there were a survey sent out to the world and they were to answer, you'll hardly get a consensus ever that says this is something for you to clean up. Most of the world goes right to revenge. Most of the world goes right to honoring the negative emotion because you really deserve to be able to feel negative, and if anybody had an excuse to feel negative about anything, it's you. And if there were going to be an exception to the law of attraction, it should be you. Because this is that egregious, but it's not going to be. The law of attraction is not going to be different for you. If you are to return to your joy, it has to be on different terms than your relationship with that man. This is pointed out, which is part of the divine crap you were talking about. Whenever you depend on another human for your stability, they're going to poop out on you eventually.
So I've discovered.
Jerry croaked. Same difference. He went away. What you're looking for is your joy, as you say.
Yes, my stability, my joy, my sense of safety.
So all of those things, as you say, your stability and your joy and your sense of safety, those things, so far, you are all tying to that relationship. You've got to find a way of realizing, and if anything should let you know that that was a flawed premise, it's where you now stand. Do you really want to go back to what didn't work last time? Oh yeah, I felt really secure and stable, and then? Yeah, and I'd like to go back and do that again? You don't want to go back and do that again. That's not where it ever was. What's happened here is that your desire for those things has become of paramount importance to you. So let's begin a focus wheel. And let's acknowledge, you acknowledge, because it's your focus wheel, what is the gut-wrenching negative emotion that is most present, most often, most dominant? What is it?
Betrayal.
Betrayal. Wait, we just asked for one. Well, there are a lot of them that sort of dovetail together, but even more than grief, it's betrayal. It was looking for stability and security in all the wrong places. We get why you do that. It's betrayal. So just sit with that for a moment and feel betrayal. And if you want to play along, it's all right. What's on the other end of betrayal?
Loyalty.
That's a sort of toxic stick, isn't it? Betrayal is on one end and loyalty is on the other. Loyalty, loyalty. And by loyalty, what do you mean?
Love.
Steady love.
Steady love.
What else does loyalty mean?
Honesty to me. Being
Yeah.
able to truly be yourself.
Yeah.
And to speak with your voice.
Yeah.
And what's in your heart. Not
So,
sneaking around and
Yeah,
you know.
we know you're talking about him still. But we're talking about your inner being. Let us tell you some things about your inner being. And you let us know if loyalty applies. You said, I'll go forth into my physical body. And your inner being said, I'll stay here and I'll keep an eye on you. Does that sound loyal? You said, I'll go forth and I'll stir up contrast. And from the contrast, sometimes I'll lose my way, but I'll launch rockets of desire. I'll figure out what I want and I'll launch a rocket of desire. And your inner being says, and when you do, I will give it my undivided attention and hold steady on it so that you can find your way back to it. Does that sound loyal?
Yes.
You said, I'll go into my physical body and I'll explore and I will launch a rocket and become a vibrational version that the rest of me can't keep up with because I've practiced a different vibration. So I'll launch the rocket and your inner being says, and we will focus upon that rocket that you've launched and we will be a point of attraction that all the cooperative components will come to that. And we will give that our undivided attention forevermore while you figure out how to find your way to that. Does that sound like loyalty?
No, but it sounds like what I was doing.
Say more? Doesn't it sound like loyalty?
No, it sounds like what I'm doing.
Give us more.
I'm wanting to work my way there.
What does loyalty mean to you? We've never used that word in relationship to your inner being, but it certainly applies. Undivided attention upon you, believing in you no matter where you are, knowing that whatever it is that you want, you can accomplish, and never allowing ourselves to go with you to any doubtful thought that you ever have about anything, about yourself or about anyone else. That's not loyalty?
Loyalty to me is loving yourself anyway. Anyway.
But you see, there can't be an anyway. When you stick the anyway in, the loyalty goes away. Loving you, even though you're flawed, your inner being's not ever going to acknowledge that you're flawed. There's never going to be an anyway coming from your inner being. That comes from humans. You don't look quite like I'd like you to look, but maybe I could bluff around that. Your inner being gives undivided attention to who you really are. There is no greater form of loyalty. So, if you're being real, which you're not right now because you can't be, but if you were really meaning that all you want, that what this life experience has brought you to want, above all other things, is coming into alignment with the whole of who you are, then there is not another opportunity that you could have lived that would put you in a position where you have identified that you want that and that you could focus will yourself toward. But what happens with most people, and you're giving us this wonderful opportunity to explain this, and because everybody is resonating with where you are about that, they're going to get it too. It feels to almost everyone that in order to really get what I want, somebody else's behavior has to change. There at least has to be remorse or repentance or some guilt. But if you can get somebody else to feel guilty, where are you in relationship to your inner being who won't go there with you?
No, it doesn't work.
It never works that way. You're right about so many things. Something that you really, 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 really want is the autonomy of alignment with that source that is you. And nothing less than that will do. And so many people are unwittingly substituting that by depending on others who should never have been put in that position. Nobody should ever need to be what you need them to be so that you feel their loyalty. Because they came to create their own reality. They didn't come to shore up yours. You came to play with them, to come to your desires, and from this experience, once you align with the vibration of true loyalty, oh, there are so many humans that will match that will flow into your experience. But you see, when that new one comes, we don't want them to substitute what you will have by then discovered with your inner being. Because if you discover your alignment with your inner being, which then will bring another human, and then you start depending on that other human the way you were before, then there's been no value in this for you. And you'll be right back where you started again.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Helpful?
Very.
Helpful? Really good time. Fourth segment of the show.
Hi, it's a money question. Would you say the poorer you are, the more difficult it is to extricate yourself out of that to prosperity based on the history of poverty?
Yes, but only because your attention to what is often becomes your dominant vibration. So actually, the opposite of that could be true if you understood these laws, because the poorer you are, the greater the vortex of prosperity that you've created, because you've been asking in a stronger way and in a more often way.
Okay.
Most people are offering most of their vibration based upon what they are observing.
Right, and I've heard you say money is one of the more difficult ones about telling a new story about.
It's pervasive, it's in your experience. Sort of like your body, it goes everywhere you go nearly.
Yeah, you say it's hard, and then you move on. So, like, are we effed if we're in that situation? Because it's hard.
Well, the good news is, and it is good news, that in the struggle, there is a creation of something more. And this is a statement that you can count on. This is a statement that we're about to make that is really worth holding in your consciousness, because this would free anyone from what you've just described. If your desire is strong enough, it doesn't matter what you believe. You come here with a variety of beliefs, and a lot of the beliefs that you hold are not serving you well. Some of them are. But we've got you outnumbered, as we just described. So what we bring to the room is knowledge of who you really are, which makes it more likely, after you hung around here for a little while and listened a little bit, for you to begin feeling the resonance with who you really are. So if you've got a strong belief, even though you have doubt, or even though you're having an experience, Esther had an experience of Jerry taken off. He told her when they first came together, strong possibility I might cut out on you early. He was 2 decades older than she was, and she said, I don't care. Turned out she didn't care. But it took a while for her to not absorb the discomfort, and so you can't do it. Here's another statement that goes along with what you said. A disease perpetuates situations where people want something different than what they've got. But this is something that we really want you to hear. It is awareness of what is, and your belief that this is reality. And therefore your belief that since it is reality, it deserves a lot of your attention, if not your undivided attention. That prevents you from moving toward what you've actually already created. And so, since this is such a pervasive scenario, so many people feel this way, we began describing it to you in these ways. You create your own reality, you know that, blah, 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 blah. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step 1 is ask, blah, blah, blah. Step 2 is source answer, blah, blah, blah. We even wrote a book about it. Step 3 is you get into the receiving mode. Step 4 is you get really good at that. Step 5 is you're so good at it that even when you step back into step 1, which is a valuable and necessary thing, you're not mad at yourself. So we explained it in that way. Then we are aware that still these are just words to so many people because what is in their life is still controlling what they are offering vibrationally. So then we began saying, you really want to tell a new story. You want to tell the story the way you want it to be, not the way that it is. But even with that, most people are just offering lip service. They're saying what they want while they're feeling what they don't have. In fact, they're saying what they want because they're trying to overcome what they don't have. Well, anytime you're trying to overcome what you don't have, you've just activated the vibration of where you are. So the now reality keeps dominating. So then we say to you, your now reality, what you call this manifestation or this now, is old news. It's like gum you chewed all the flavor out of. It's old news. It's already done. Then we started to get some of your attention. It's really not the present tense. What is the present tense is this vibrational reality. Well, that was sort of hard for you to accept, so we began really talking about this vortex of creation, this vibrational reality. We gave it the name vortex. We wrote 2 books about this vortex. Want you to understand that this is real. Hard for you to accept that something that you can't see and hear and smell and taste and touch is real, but it is. We know that it is, but words don't teach, so we can talk about your vortex all day long, but until you sense that it is there. So then, we're still looking for a way for you to accept the reality, this reality. So there's this reality where your inner being is, and there's this reality where you are. And the reality where you are has to do a little blending with this reality in order to let these, and then the word came from Jerry, turning thoughts to things. How do thoughts turn to things anyway? There are no pipelines bringing supplies in from other planets. Your economy and its evolution has been about your turning thoughts to things. And so then we began to explain to you that you've got this vibrational reality. Oh, it's pure positive energy. And it contains everything that you want, even things that you can't even identify that you want because the components of it are so expansive and the possibility of the exponential combining of them is more than your mind can even comprehend. This vortex exists on a vibrational level and it is coded to you through your vibrational association with it. You created it. It will always be yours. It's the other end of your lacking stick. It is for you. So some of you began coming along a little better about that, and then we began saying, you're going to somehow get in that vortex where that stuff is. Well, you wanted to go into the vortex, but it's asking a lot of you. We know that it is. It's asking you to suspend your awareness of reality that your whole life everybody's been trying to get you to face. And we say, if your reality sucks, don't you want to look somewhere else? And so the more your reality sucks, then maybe the more you're willing to look someplace else. And then we hit upon something that became a very fast-moving advantage for so many of you. We explained to you that here it all is. And vibrationally, here it all is. And in your poverty or in your lack of abundance, here you are. And you have got to find some way of allowing your vibration to rise and become equivalent to what's in your vortex in order for you to receive the thoughts that will translate into the abundance that you see.
I get it. Yeah.
You can't get a good idea from the story that you just told to us. No good ideas come to you under those your inner being could offer you a suggestion. Here's the thing that's tripping you up. This is so good. We are so happy to say this to you. This is going to be so valuable to you in the days and weeks that are following. So here's what's tripping all of you up. Your inner being is giving you the answer to everything that you want, but you can't hear it outside of your beliefs. So even though your inner being knows where your fortunes are, knows where to guide you, you can't hear it because you're vibrationally all wadded up into what is. However,
Are you talking about me specifically?
yes.
Okay.
However,
Because I do meditate in the morning.
wait, but you didn't know this. You didn't know this that you're about to understand, that you're about to feel rested. So when you quiet your mind and detach, you feel that detachment, and you're there for a little while, and something occurs to you. Something feels interesting, like, I think I'll get a Slurpee at 7-Eleven. Even something that unspiritual.
I get those.
When you follow it, and when you consistently follow it, before long, those impulses are going to turn into something tangible enough that you can realize that you were receiving guidance that was guiding you in the best way that you could receive it toward the ideas that will blossom into the things that you are wanting.
So in that moment when I notice I can't afford something, don't worry about it.
Yes, of course, that's what we recommend, but we would be recommending something impossible. That's like saying your train's going 100 miles an hour in the direction you don't want to go, and all of a sudden just stop the momentum. Well, you're not going to stop the momentum. You're not going to stop the momentum of that. The only way you can turn that momentum around quickly is to fall off a cliff. We're not kidding. If you were to fall off a cliff, that happens really fast. We're not making fun of anything. But you would, in that, what you call death experience, you would suspend that lack of thought and you would swoop into the fullness of who you are. That's a quantum leap most of you don't want to take. And so a kinder, gentler way to go about it is to just allow yourself to take a nap, go to sleep, change the subject, accept what is, satisfaction with what is. Just do your best to say, well, here it is, and things are working out for me, and I can't see how they're working out for me, but I want to believe that they're working out for me, and maybe they are working out for me. And I do like the idea that there are two ends of the stick, and that all of this uncomfortable experience that I've had has accomplished something. Maybe there is a vibrational reality. It could be that Abraham really knows something about that, and maybe I can find my way to that. And what's my path of least resistance to the state of vibrational beingness that would allow me to be the receiver? You have to find a way to allow yourself to be the receiver. And there's lots of things that you think you want. An inheritance would be nice, but my family didn't set me up for that. And the lottery would be nice, but I know the odds too much, and so I'm blocking that. And this could happen, and this could happen, but. But there are so many other ways through which it can come. We are appreciating this conversation so much because you're hitting upon something that so many people feel. You cannot face a reality that doesn't please you and be in that moment allowing the one that does. And so this is what we really want you to hear, because you heard something from us earlier. You heard us say, and we felt you feel the resonance with us when you heard it. And that was, your inner being never looks back. Your inner being never looks back. Did you hear it? And did you sort of kind of understand it and believe it? Your inner being never looks back. Now hear this. We have not said this before. It's your doing that has accomplished this statement, and it matters a lot. And we're all really appreciative that you've prodded us into this statement that is beneficial to the entire universe as you hear it and take it home with you and know it. What you call now reality is looking back. Because the manifestation has already taken place. That's like cooking the last egg in the kitchen and not doing it well. And there's just not that much you can do about it because you don't have another egg. That was so profound.
So do you know why some older men walk like this? Okay, before I tell you, I want to ask you something. When was the last time you
We are extremely pleased that you are here. We've offered a lot of processes over time, and a lot of you have applied them. Esther applied all of them and still applies many of them because she's wanting to tune her vibrational frequency. And when she feels negative emotions, she wants to clean up the vibration that she knows is the reason for that. She knows that negative emotion means that her inner being feels one way about something and she feels a different way about it. And she wants to close that gap. She wants to see through the eyes of Source, which is exactly the conversation that we're on here. And so there are processes like focus wheels or making lists of positive aspects. And if you want, we'll talk about some of those as we move forward through this day. But what we're saying to Esther these days, Esther who's a master of deliberate creation, Esther who is very much aware of how she's feeling and doesn't take any vibration for granted. She wants to do something about it. She wants to be deliberate and not be a creator by default. We've been saying to her, getting out ahead of it is really what you're reaching for, which those are hard words to wrap your thoughts around. What do you mean getting out ahead of it? And what we mean by that is not waiting until life gives you something that you react to and then trying to get over the reaction. We mean tuning into Source so that your action is inspired from that tuning. The other day something happened that was unsettling to Esther, so she sat to do a process so she felt less unsettled. And she'd been doing some of those processes with a friend earlier, and she was sort of sick of this focus wheel process because it was starting to feel like trying too hard because it was trying too hard. And so she sort of set her book aside as if to say, enough of that. And then the thought came to her mind, if I were starting over with this relationship or with this big piece of my life, if I were completely starting over with it, knowing what I now know, if I were, what would I choose? And then the thought piled into her mind, more than if, since right now I am new, this is what you're talking about, since right now I am newly looking at this old painting. But since I'm newly doing it now, I am new now. I am new now, and if I'm tuned in, tapped in, turned on, if I'm in love with life, if I'm in vibrational sync with who I really am, if I'm not trying to overcome resistance or mired in resistance, but if I'm jubilant and lighthearted and happy and pondering something. She recalled us saying so many times, it may be our most often offered phrase, one who's connected to Source energy or to the stream or to the vortex. We've had a lot of different stories that we've been telling you about this way to describe this connection to your Source, to who you really are. One who's connected to that is millions of times more powerful than one who is not. That's a leverage that we can't even find words in Esther's vocabulary to define accurately. Tuning in is powerful, and for a few seconds Esther felt that. She got a glimpse of what it feels like. Since I can be or do or have anything that I choose, what do I choose? Because, almost none of you do it. Almost everyone says, since I choose that from where I am, then I've got to get over this and this and this and this and this. I got to go back and repaint that painting, or I've got to go back and I've got to go back and find forgiveness with that. And all you do is get muddled in the mire of that. Because it's attraction, attraction, attraction. There is no exclusion in this universe. And so when you see yourself as something that needs improvement and you push against the part that you're trying to improve, it doesn't diminish, it becomes more, and you take it with you into your now, and it muddles your ability, it stops your clarity of acknowledging the perfection of whatever it is that you're giving your attention to now. Are you with us? This is a deep conversation. So also, it's like the difference between trying to fix something that is broken and just finding something that is perfect and new. It's a big difference. It's a big difference. And you have the ability in every moment to go right to that clarity. It'll take a little practice. Esther's still practicing every day. But the point that we made with her in that experience as she was living, what she took away from it, and therefore the analogy that we're offering to you here is, don't try so hard, don't work so hard. If we can get across to you that in your living you've created a vibrational reality that is real, and it is full of all that you've become, and that's calling you, and your inner being is standing there in that vibrational frequency, radiating such a signal, you call it inspiration, you feel it often while you're doing your art. And as you acknowledge the existence of that vibration, and you seek to find it by seeking to feel it, which means you're looking for feelings of clarity and feelings of happy and feelings of empowerment and feelings of elation, and doing whatever you can to find that, then that is a faster way, a more effective way, and certainly a more enjoying the journey way of moving from the thought to the thing. Thoughts are turning to things constantly, and they are mimicking how you feel. And so what's manifesting is a good way to know what your vibrational offering has been. But an even better way is to know what your vibrational offering is. And getting out ahead of it means caring about how you feel, period. Not for the ulterior motive of feeling good so I can create better. Because, did you hear just what happened? When I decide I want to feel good so that I can create better, what am I looking at? Worse. And what did I just introduce into the vibrational mix? Resistance. And so what did I just do to my receiving mode? Muted it. So how do I feel? Not so good. Confusion rather than clarity. You following? So our encouragement, what we're really saying to you is, be nicer to you. Do more of the things that feel good to you. Stop sacrificing. Stop feeling like I got to work hard in order to receive this. Instead, begin making declarative statements to yourself like this. I am an extension of source energy, and source energy is all over me. I'm an extension of source energy, and my source energy is reveling in what I have created as a result of my exposure to contrast. It's a wonderful thing where I stand, and it's a wonderful thing what I've created. And all I want to do, all I need to do, all I want to do, all that is necessary, all that I want to do is to follow my bliss. Follow my bliss. That person bums me out. I don't feel like calling them. Don't. They'll feel bad. Maybe. I need to call them. Don't do it. Does it make your heart sing when you think about doing it? No. Then don't do it. I feel like calling that friend. Do it. Do it. People are in all kinds of different places. If you will be good to yourself. I feel like a walk. I feel like breathing deeply. I feel like listening to music. I feel like dancing tonight. I feel like a really good meal. I feel like a spa. I feel like going to the ocean. I feel like taking a day off. I feel like calling this uplifting friend. I feel like just curling up and reading a book. Be nicer to yourselves. Don't let the bargains that you've made with other people that bind you in an attitude of bondage and service, don't let that deprive you of your connection to the energy that creates worlds, to the true leverage. Now, to be clear with you, there's stuff you gotta do. You gotta feed your kids. And you gotta go to work, and it's good for you when you make your bed, and blah, blah, blah. In other words, do those things, do those things, do those service things. Just minimize the service part. And maximize more of doing things that please you. And when people say, why did you do that? Say, wanted to. Don't let anybody guilt you into a justification. Well, I thought if I did that it might enhance your experience in some way, sweetheart. No. Wanted to. Felt like it. Felt called to it. Felt guided to it. Got an inspiration. Knew it was the right thing for me to do. Or say, don't feel like explaining anything. Be nicer to yourselves. And that's what we mean by getting out ahead of it. Don't try to clean up the vibration. Wait. Clean up the vibration. Just don't do that all the time. Use the real power. Use the real power, which is tuning in. And for those like you who are creative in your work, sculpting or painting or musicking or writing or dancing or those things that you want to call the creative arts. Everything is creation. But those of you who have felt inspiration and known it was there, and so gone to your place where you could let it flow, you get what we mean. We want you to put yourself into that creative place more often, where you let yourself flow. And do you know, this is where it gets really important for you to hear. 10 seconds of that kind of flow is equivalent to about 2 years of action. It's huge. It's huge. It's huge. It's huge.
Good morning.
It is.
It is. So I want to talk a little bit about meditation. So if we can be, do, or have everything that we want to get ahead of it. How can I use that to help break away resistance or eliminate the things that are maybe holding me back?
Because when you meditate, you quiet your mind, and when you quiet your mind, you stop thought. And when you stop thought, you stop resistant thought. And when you stop resistant thought, you have access to what's in your vortex.
So how can I carry that on through the day and not just for that 15 minutes?
Well, maybe you can't. But you don't worry about that, because that is resistant thought. Next. Just catch a snatch of it here and a snatch of it there and a snatch of it there. Just do your best. Just tilt the scale just a little bit. And it won't take long, because you see, right now to you, it just sounds like someone excited about something who seems like they know what they're talking about. But when you take the time to meditate or to make lists of positive aspects, and you are certain, or you feel pretty good, that you are resistance free, and then an idea bubbles up or roars up from your vortex, and you follow through with it, and you receive the immediate reward of feeling great. That's the first thing that will happen. A moment of clarity, or a moment of insight, or a moment of euphoria, or a moment of interest. Doesn't matter what label you give it, it feels really good to you. And then another, and then another. We're not asking you to expect it to bubble up and manifest. We're asking you to allow it to bubble up and feel it, and acknowledge that you feel it, and milk it as long as you can, and see what else it turns to before your practical mind gets involved and you start introducing resistance into the equation. That's the game you want to play. How long can I go resistance free? But even when you play that game, now you make it resistance right from the get-go, because you're trying to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to only think pure positive thoughts. Your contrast served you. That's how all the ingredients got into your vortex. And your inner being knows what that all adds up to. The lifetimes of glorious experience that adds up to. We called this gathering for a while the science of deliberate creation, but you were too heavy on the thinking part. And then we began calling it the art of allowing, the art of receiving, the art of every now and again getting into the receiving mode so that you can receive an impulse about something. Don't you have experiences that you could tell one another about how you cared about something, maybe something caused you to worry about it, if you cared about it, and then you were carefree, or maybe you don't even remember that part, but you turned the corner and there it was, and it just felt like it came out of nowhere. And we want you to know that things are ready to come out of what you think is nowhere all the time. Great ideas are ready to come out of what you want to call nowhere, because they're not coming out of the tangible piles that you've been gathering. They're coming out of the intangible, non-resistant, well-stocked kitchen, stocked by only the ingredients that you want. And so it's about getting into the receptive mode is everything. But in order for you to know how important it is and feel the power of it, first you have to accept that your life has been serving you and that you've put many decisions and requests and goals and hopes and dreams there. And that they are ready for you when we say, you said it back to us, you can be or do or have anything that you desire. And you've been putting it into your vortex in bits and pieces, but you don't have the ability to look into it and see everything that is what you want to call potential. We want to call it a done deal. And your inner being will inspire you according to your path of least resistance. Let's say that you have something that you really want, but you are really thinking in opposition of it. And your inner being knows that you want it and knows where you stand vibrationally. Your inner being will offer you impulses that will guide you around your resistant thought. You did that with your children when they were little. Do you remember? When you knew that there was that thing that they always wanted to do in that store, do you remember you never took them down that aisle? You always took them on a path of least resistance, a path that you felt would be a more comfortable experience for them and for you. And so it's the same sort of thing. Your inner being knows. Do you meditate? Do you? You quiet your mind? And have you heard from us here today? You have a sort of renewed interest in the power of that quieted mind. We'll talk more about meditation if you want to. You want to? What do you want?
I do. So, quieting the mind. Sometimes thoughts come to me, things.
Well, here's the thing. Let's say that you woke up and you were thinking about something. It could be positive or negative. Let's just say you were thinking about it. Now let's say that it's not all that positive. Then you check your email and there's more about it in there. And then you turn on the television and it's kind of like that too. And then you call a friend and you kind of get some stuff going as you are facing reality and pointing out. Esther hears it on the airplane all the time. Business people talking to their coworkers or calling their coworkers about things that they're trying to hammer into place. And she just puts her earphones on and puts her pillow on and focuses into her world and out of that, because it doesn't take very much of that focus before off you go. So if you're in that sort of momentum, that's not the best time for you to say, I think I'll meditate, or I think I need to meditate, because you will have a very difficult time quieting your mind under those conditions. Those thoughts already have enough momentum going that that's when the lobotomy would be more helpful, or a nap. We would meditate when there's the least amount of momentum going. It's sort of like, have you ever felt like you really needed to sleep, but you couldn't sleep? And the harder you tried to sleep, the more you couldn't sleep? Well, meditation is like that for you. You say, I need to meditate, I really need this, but you can't, because you're focused on what's holding you away from it, so it's what's getting bigger. So what you do is, you wait for a sort of clear space, and that usually comes earlier in the morning. Maybe it comes after your kids leave the house. Maybe it comes when you're finally alone in your car somewhere. You could pull under a tree. You have to find a quiet space for it. And the earlier in the day, the better. But you'll get better and better at it. It's just a matter of focus. We recommend that you focus upon something that doesn't require very much thought. Because to say, I'm not going to think about anything, now you're thinking about not thinking about anything, and everything in the world that you're not wanting to think about, you're thinking about. But find something to focus on. It might be a bird in a bird bath. It might be the dripping of a faucet. Esther likes to listen to air conditioning and has always been hot like this. So the air conditioner, there's almost always that sound. That's very interesting. And notice that you're not prone. There's not much to think about it. And you don't say, I heard that. It's just a sound. the wherewithal to follow through with it. And then you see that it leads to this, and it leads to this, and it leads to this, and it leads to this. And you have that joyous journey, which we keep wanting to say is really what you want, and you keep saying, yeah, I want the joyous journey too, as long as it's leading me to the destinations I want. Yeah, I want the joyous journey as long as it's leading me to the destination that I want. We're speaking it so fast you can't even hear the words because you're so eager to get to the destination you want. Oh, yeah, I'm willing. Well, just cool your jets. Cool your jets. Just relax and enjoy. Enjoy the freshness. Enjoy the clarity. Clarity is power. Can't you feel that in yourself? Don't you know even in your own house you get up, you have things to do, maybe you're going to get on a trip, have you ever just run around in circles? And it's a miracle that you even made the plane. Haven't you had a day like that? And haven't you also had a day when you're usually by yourself when you have this kind of day, but where everything just falls into place, the traffic parts for you, everyone's nice to you, you have extra time, you just feel good about where you are. We want your lives to be calm and clear. We want them to be sure and full of all of these good feelings. And this is what this powerful receiving is about. Letting yourself receive, letting yourself see the vibrational equivalent of your inner being, where all of your power is. And now we're just going to tell you something. We love you so much. You hardly meet a human who is 10% of that. Hardly ever. And when you do, you are amazed. So, we're not asking for a perfect record. We're not asking you to stop ragging on that person at work that drives you crazy. We're just asking you to ratchet it back a notch. And we're asking you, in addition, look for some positive aspects too. We're not asking you to meditate all day. You couldn't if you wanted to. Some try it. It's not what you want to do. It's not what we want you to do. We're just asking you to find 15 or 20 minutes and do your best to find a moment or two of detachment and then notice what happens next. We want you to introduce yourself to your power. We want you to get hooked on it. Because you came as creators. You did not come as regurgitators. You came as creators. You did not come as defenders. You didn't come to fix a broken world. You came to create a world that is delicious